Again, maybe I'm wrong on this. I mentioned it in the first season. Here's these rings that look like something is riling up the water here on the left-hand side of this scene. They're pretty heavy rings, which would indicate water is falling in or something's being thrown in. If it was just water hitting a rock or washing on the shore, it wouldn't make those big rings back out into the lagoon. So I'm thinking maybe somebody is there just giving it a little action. And it would seem that the rings that are coming out once the action starts in the scene are heavier than the ones before the action starts because they stay as rings further out into the lagoon. Here's another one of these. This is a lead-in with the skipper and Gilligan's hut, followed by action in the Howell's hut. And one of the giveaways is you don't see the orange curtains on the doors like you do on the inside. Fake money drives me crazy. So this whole time, for their own happiness, peace of mind, and freedom, they wouldn't concentrate on how to get off the island, but they'll do it for $1 million. I had noticed that Mr. Howell has on the same clothes in quite a bit of this episode, and it occurred to me it's probably because when they did these scenes where he's running in the water, they did them all at once. And in order to protect their own continuity interests, they just had him wear those clothes so they wouldn't have to keep switching back and forth. This is some of the best continuity I have seen so far. Watching these idea sheets as they're laying them down, we see that Ginger's is the yellow one, and we also see that the skipper pulls his back out and puts it on top so the professor will see it first. Then a moment later, the skipper says,
"But what's better than a one-man balloon with hot rocks to produce hot air?"
And we already know that Ginger's idea is to perform in a skimpy outfit. Now look at their sheets. Here's the yellow one with Ginger in the skimpy outfit. And here's the one Skipper put on top, and indeed it does have a hot air balloon. Excellent work. They also did a good job on this sight gag. Really, the only time they needed to use wires was in this one shot. You can see one black wire. The other shots are a little closer up, and they didn't need to suspend them in those. And also notice the wing shadow on the sky in the background. Mrs. Howell's camera here is a Graflex Graphic 35. They were manufactured from 1955 to 1958. So now we know there are at least 3 cameras on the island plus a movie camera. And here for the second time in this episode, we have the lead-in of the Skipper and Gilligan's hut going into action with the Howell's hut inside. And also notice that the lighting designer slacked up a little bit here in his work with these heavy shadows in the upper right and this vertical shadow in the back middle. I never knew after all this time who the radio actually belonged to.
It is my radio.
This is pretty funny, and it's certainly not unique to Gilligan's Island. A lot of the shows did and still do this, but Mrs. Howell goes to turn up the lamp. First of all, the flame doesn't even change when she touches the lamp, but look at all the various lights that come on in different places throughout the hut. I personally think this was a very well done double meaning here. There's a lot to this. If you look at this life ring, the bottom says Honolulu and the other edge says Bacchanal. Now, Bacchanal is wild and drunken revelry, which matches the imposter's behavior, but it is also a worshiper of Bacchus, who is the Roman god of wine, and that is also Jim Backus. So I personally think this was done intentionally, and it is very cool. The fake Mr. Howell does a little bottle switch here, first holding it by the neck of the bottle, and now he's holding it in the middle. First, we can see that the double sitting in the lounge has white hair, and it's certainly not Mr. Howell. And then we can clearly see that the double in the back here is not Mr. Howell, and in fact, it almost looks like a person with a mask on. And here we can get another good shot of the stand-in. Mrs. Howell says,
Thurston has the cutest little mole on his right elbow.
And then goes on to point at her left elbow.